Okay, now the next key element here is the circle of fifths. This is a diagram that I came up with on my first harmonica book, back in 2005, I think. So I just kind of took a screenshot of it and copied it in here. Um, so it's critical to incorporate knowledge of the modes and this circle of fifths into learning and understanding the harmonica. Now focus, I just have these circles, these red and green circles there. So focus on those, the bold, larger font letters on the inside edge of the circle line. Those are the keys as you go around the circle. Those are the keys in the circle of fifths. Yep, those are the keys. And then the smaller font letters, I just put those in there as kind of a guide. So as you're moving from key to key, like if you're moving from C to G, it shows you C, D, E, F in the between there. So it helps you to know what notes and how to count them up properly until you get to the next key in the circle. Now in the zigzag pattern there, when I first did this, it just seemed like all the letters were just too close to each other, and so I put this little zigzag thing in there just so you can kind of differentiate the letters, and I think it does make it a little more readable. But yeah, that's the only reason that's there. Now, this is important. When you're counting steps, when you're going from C to G, for example, you always start counting one on the first letter that you start with. So if you're going from C to G, C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, and G is 5. So C, D, E, F, G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you were walking, you wouldn't count one that you're standing there. You would just count one on your first step, right? But that's not the way you count steps and count in music. You start counting on the one that you're standing on to begin with. So the mode chart, we started it on the key of C, and so we're starting the circle of fifths on C. So the key of C Ionian mode has, as we've been saying, has no sharps or flats. And that little empty staff at the top reminds you of this. So if you see a musical staff with that treble clef there, and then and it's right next to the treble clef, there's no sharp or flat signs. That tells you that you're in key of C major. Okay, so we're going to start at the C, and we're going to move around the circle clockwise, and we're going to count up the first 5 notes of the Ionian mode. The circle of fifths is all based on Ionian mode, major mode. Okay, so we have C, D, E, F, G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see the half step between 3 and 4 there. And so we landed on G. G is the second key in the circle of fifths. Now, say the notes that make up the G Ionian scale. Now remember, we need half steps between the 3rd and 4th and the 7th and the 8th. Remember, that's what defines the Ionian mode, or where the half steps are. And so they're between the 3rd and 4th and the 7th and the 8th scale degrees, okay? So we got 1 to 2, G to A, and you can see that I've highlighted G and A with red circles in the circle of fifths there to help you out. Okay, then 2 to 3, A to B is another whole step, and you can see that highlighted on the circle. 3 to 4, B to C, half step. Oh, that's very convenient, because 3rd and 4th we need a half step in Ionian mode, and so it's a naturally occurring half step between B and C, so we don't have to sharp anything. 4 to 5 is C to D, whole step, fine. 5 to 6 is D to E, another whole step, that's fine. 6 to 7, E to F, oh, that's a half a step. Wait, but E to F is a half step, but the half step needs to be between the 7th and the 8th degrees for Ionian mode. So to make that 6th and 7th interval a whole step and the 7th, 8th a half step, we'll just raise that F to an F sharp and complete the scale. 6 to 7, E to F sharp. You can see I've circled the F sharp in blue on the circle, so you can see that's a sharped F, and that's a whole step, which is what we want there. And then 7 to 8, that's where we want the half step to be. Oh, perfect, because that F sharp to the G is a half step. That's great. It worked out just fine. So we just sharped the F. So G Ionian has one sharp, and it's an F sharp. And so the little staff next to the G on the circle has a sharp symbol where the note F would be on the staff. This is to tell you that all Fs are sharped if you're in that key. This would remind you that we're in G Ionian and it has an F sharp. I also put a word next to the staff that starts with an F. It's the word fat, and we're going to be building a sentence to help you remember the order that sharps are added as we go around the circle of fifths. So the G Ionian scale has the notes G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. You can see them all highlighted over in the circle with the F sharp circled in blue. Notice that the only change we had to make was raising the 7th scale degree to get the G Ionian mode scale. Important, so from now on, whenever we encounter an F in the circle while we're moving our way around it, it's always going to be an F sharp from now on. So now let's say the first 5 notes of the G Ionian mode scale. G, A, B, C, D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we arrive at D. So D is the 3rd key in the circle of fifths. Now say the notes that make up the D Ionian scale. And remember to sharp all Fs, right? So 1 to 2 is D to E. E to F sharp is a whole step. E to F is a half step, right? So E to F sharp is a whole step, which is what we want between the 2nd and 3rd scale degrees. Oh, F sharp to G, it's a half step. Perfect. That's just what we want between the 3rd and 4th. G to A, 4th to 5th, another whole step. 5 to 6, A to B, another whole step. Oh, 6 to 7, B to C, that's a half step. Uh-oh. So we have to do the same thing we did before. So raise the 7th degree of the scale to a C sharp and complete the scale. The 6 to 7 is now a whole step because we're going from B to C sharp instead of B to C, right? And then perfect, because that C sharp now makes that C sharp to D a half step between the 7th and 8th. Perfect. So D Ionian is D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. And you can see I've got the C sharp circled in blue. That's the most recent sharp we added. So now moving forward, all F notes are F sharp and all C notes are C sharp. The little staff next to the D has sharps where F and C would be written, plus we have added a word to our sentence, which is now fat cats, F, C. So as a note here, in keys with sharps, you can tell what key you're in. Like let's just say you see the sharps on the staff, and you can tell what key you're in just by looking at that key signature with next to the treble clef there. So the Ionian mode that you're in is the half step higher than the last sharp shown. So if you have F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp, The key you're in is A Ionian, which is a half a step above the final sharp, which was the G sharp. So a half step above G sharp is A sharp. So, or is A. So you are in A Ionian. Or one of its derived modes. So now let's say the first 5 notes in the D Ionian scale. D, E, F sharp, G, A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? We remembered to put the F sharp in there. So we arrived at A, which is the 4th key in the circle of fifths. So now let's make the Ionian mode starting on A. A to B, whole step. B to C sharp, whole step. C sharp to D, half step, perfect. D to E, whole step. E to F sharp, whole step. F sharp to G, half step. But again, we have to sharp that 7th scale degree to get a half step between the 7th and 8th scale degrees. So the notes in A Ionian are A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, and now G sharp. From now on, all the G notes will be sharped, as well as the F sharps and the C sharps. And the little staff next to the key of A shows the sharp symbols where F, C, and G would be written. Our sentence now has a 3rd word. It is now fat cats go. Continue the process around the circle, adding a sharped 7th note at each stop. The complete sentence to remember is fat cats go down alleys eating bananas. That's a 7-word sentence, which corresponds to the 7 possible sharps that you'll arrive at.